Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. Most normal Americans think of Thanksgiving as their favorite holiday at the end of November. Not so for shooters in Pennsylvania, where the start of deer season makes it easy to forget about turkey. One could even trace the word back to where it came from: Holy Day. Schools and many small shops are closed, and the sounds of guns can be heard in the woods around the small towns of the endless mountains. Considering how much booze and other drugs are used in the hunting lodges and small shacks that are all over the woods, this can be a sobering thought for the average resident of the state. Our hero, Phil, had been on many of these happy hunting weekends, and his freezer was always full of deer meat for many years. He had all the bright orange gear to show that he wasn't a deer while he hunted. He also drove a big car that could take his kill to the butcher. He had a never-ending supply of stories to tell while he and his friends drank bourbon and made up more outrageous lies to get ready for the hunt. That is, until Phil told the boys at the Moose Club on Friday night that he wouldn't be going with them to Buck Day. "You won't hunt on Buck Day, right?" Lyle yelled. "Nope, I have other things to do." Phil was strangely quiet. Fred said, "That's impossible." Pete swore that was impossible. "Is not American." Charlie was scared. Charlie's idea of what was patriotic was always strange. But yes, Lyle and Pete worked hard to show Phil that he was wrong and bring him back to the true path, but Phil was stubborn and wouldn't change his mind. There was a lot of creativity and a lot of beer used to try to figure out what could be more important than hunting, but Phil was not helpful. He had to do other things, and that was the end of it. "So, since you're not going shooting, can we use your cabin?" Fred had finally come to terms with what was going to happen and was trying to make the best of it. "Sorry, Fred, but someone else has it." This led to more questions and drinks, but Phil still wouldn't say who would be in the hunting cabin while he skipped out on his patriotic job to go hunt a buck for the country. Did I say there was a lot of beer going around? At this point, the talk was getting pretty silly. Phil's plans for Buck Day were still a mystery to the boys when the store closed, so they walked to their homes — it was a small town — still scratching their heads and wondering what was going on. Dorothy gave Phil a goodbye hug and told him to have a good weekend. Dorothy knew Phil's need to cross-dress was getting strong when he suggested giving up hunting so he could spend the weekend as Phyllis. Their occasional trips away from home to let Phyllis see the light of day stopped when they had kids, and normal life in a small town made it hard for her husband to show his feminine side for more than a few hours at a time. Phil's ability to pass as a woman only made things harder for him in many ways. For example, when he looked in the mirror, he was sometimes too aware of what he was missing. Even though she grew up in a small town, Dorothy never seemed to mind that he was obsessed with being a woman. She loved living here with her husband and raising their kids together, but there were some things that her friends and neighbors would never understand. Phil picked up a rental car in Williamsport and drove to the house in the woods. He laughed a little at his attempts to keep the secret. If anyone he knew showed up, his own car would be a dead giveaway outside the house, so why take a chance? 3 days alone in the woods to live as Phyllis. 3 days of freedom. He put his suitcase on the bed and the icebox in the kitchen by the light of a lantern as he unloaded the small rental. Out here, there is no power, so people use wood fires, kerosene stoves, and lamps. His cell phone was off in his dresser drawer at home, and there were no other things to distract him from nature. Nature of being a girl. Phil knew that the unusually warm weather would bother his friends, who wanted snow to make it easier to track down the deer. But he was just as happy that the night was warm and quiet, so he didn't have to make a fire in the fireplace. He put kindling in the bottom of the wood-burning hot water tank and started a small fire. While the water was heating up, he used the hand pump to fill the reservoir above the crude shower in the cabin. He then made the bed with silk sheets and a coverlet from one of the bags. He took off his regular clothes and put them in the drawer next to the bed. He then put Phyllis's weekend clothes in the other drawers. It was too bad there wasn't a tub for a bubble bath, but you have to take what you can get. He got out of the shower and dried off with a towel, but he still wasn't sure what he would wear that night. It was silly for him to worry so much about which of the 6 pairs of undergarments he had brought to wear, but in the end, he put on the blue flower pair, followed quickly by the blue bra that went with it. Did pioneer women wear bras and pants that went together? Maybe not, but who cared? Phyllis put the foam cushions in the bed and put on a cozy nightgown. Then she lit a second kerosene lamp and put it at the head of the bed. She took a bottle of wine from the cooler that was a much better vintage than she generally drank, filled her glass, and then opened a package of camembert cheese and some small crackers. What's the point of going too far with this pioneer stuff? She got into bed and pulled the coverlet over her chest. Then she picked up a good book and read for a while. After a while, she blew out the light and went to sleep with a huge smile on her face. The cabin was filled with a pink glow from the rising sun, which slowly woke Phyllis. Again, it was fun for her to think about what to wear. This time, she picked a long tweed skirt and a bright orange blouse because she didn't want to look like she belonged in the woods. While the coffee was heating up, she sat on the porch and put on her makeup in the bright sunlight. Then she put on her wig and put on a frilly apron to keep her outfit from getting messed up by food. She ate on the porch, listening to the birds sing and reading the book she had been reading the night before. When she was done washing the dishes, she put on a strong pair of tan hiking boots and spent the day walking through the familiar woods. Sometimes she saw a stranger in the distance, but mostly she was on her own. The shooting season didn't start until Monday, so her hunting friends probably wouldn't have found her in the woods over the weekend. As she walked through the woods, she liked how it felt to hike in a skirt and move around easily with the weight of the clothes. At noon, she was on top of a hill, eating a sandwich and drinking pure spring water from her bottle while looking down at the valley below. Nothing could be better than this. Dinner was chicken and zucchini slices roasted over coals outside the cabin, along with more wine and rice pilaf from the gas stove. She was pretty fancy for camp food, but she had a lot of time. As the sun went down, she started another book by the light of the lamps and went to sleep again in her nightgown. Sunday was the same as Saturday, except she went east instead of west along the path. She had just started to think about turning on the lamps when she heard a crash in the woods. She stood up, shocked, and turned around to see what was making the noise. The stranger walking slowly through the woods saw her before she could hide. No, it was Lyle, not a stranger. Lyle is big, old, drunk, and a fool. And obviously, Lyle, who was drunk. Well, holy crap, he mumbled. Old Phil must have been telling the truth when he said he rented the place, but it was a fool thing to do on Buck Day. Phyllis just stood there and looked at her, or his, best friend. Could he be so drunk that he didn't know who she was? Ask something stupid. He was, of course. "Sir, can I help you?" It's amazing that her voice would even work. She took the glass in her hand, refilled it from the bottle, without offering to share, and took a sip to calm her jitters. "I'm sorry, but this is private land, and you're not supposed to be here." "Oh, no. My friend Phil owns this place. I'm just making sure for him that it's okay. Sir, I'm sure he respects your help, but I came out here to be alone with nature. If you'd be so kind." She pointed back toward where he had come from. She might even be able to do this. "Geez, lady, did you just eat a dictionary?" She took another sip of wine and looked at him with a cold face. He was about to leave as she kept staring at him, but then his face lit up. "Hey, you aren't waiting around for old Phil, are you? Wasn't that the end of everything? You don't need to know who or what I'm waiting for, my good man. I hope you have a nice night, sir." She turned her back on Lyle and opened the door to the cabin. She heard Lyle laugh naughtily as he took the hint and walked away. By the time Lyle had told the story to the boys, and the boys got through with it, he was going to have quite a reputation. Sometimes a man's gotta do what a man's gotta do. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for a lot more content and early access to YouTube videos.